On this week's episode, we are joined by my colleague, but actually more importantly, my friend, the wonderful Sharry Cramond, M&S Marketing Director of Food and Director of Loyalty. Sharry started her career as a brand manager at Kraft before joining Tesco, where she stayed for just over a decade. I think we overlapped a little, in a variety of marketing and commercial director roles, including being part of the team who created Tesco Bank and Tesco Telecoms. Sharry then moved all the way to Melbourne in Australia, where she led all brand communications for Coles, which was hugely transformational for the brand.
Now, after 4 years in Australia, Sharry reunited with Tesco as Group Marketing Director before moving on to America to become Chief Marketing Officer of Southeastern Grocers, the 5th biggest grocery retailer in the US. In 2018, Sharry moved back from the US to join Team M&S as the Marketing Director for the Food Group, and she leads the Sparks loyalty program. Other than her retail marketing career, Sharry is a mother of 2 and a published author. With her book, Win Your Lottery, she has a real passion for the psychology of achievement, and I can't wait to hear more about that. Sharry is also an enthusiastic mentor to people inside and outside of the organisation, including an entire class of 14-year-old girls from a school in Scotland. Welcome, Sharry.
That's me.
Bit busy. I know from working with you as the marketing director of food that you are constantly shaking things up at M&S. One may say causing good trouble. But what would you say in terms of your career was a defining moment when you thought, I've really had to shake the table here?
I would say growing up poor is absolutely my superpower. You know, people talk about what's their superpower. And growing up in a really low-income family is, I think, what's really driven me to succeed. And my shake-the-table moment actually happened when I was 11 years old, before I even started work. You know, I grew up in a low-income family. I was going to secondary school. You had to wear a school uniform. My family couldn't afford to buy the uniform. So my mum and I went round the second-hand shops. We found the blazer for the school. Brilliant. First day at school, went to my friend's house. She knocked on the door. She opened the door, and the first thing she said to me was, "Oh, do you know you're in the wrong colour?" And what my mum and I hadn't realised, that the school had updated the blazer, still blue, but a totally different shade of blue. And my shake the table moment, although I didn't know it at the time, is because what I felt like doing when I was horrified at realising I was in the wrong colour of blazer is running home crying. But my shake the table moment is when I said, yes, I do know, but I actually prefer this colour. And she accepted my answer. And when I went to my first day at school that day, I felt like all 300 kids starting in year 1 of secondary school that day all said to me, do you know you're in the wrong colour? Do you know you're in the wrong colour? And to each and every one I said, yes, I do know, but I prefer this colour, I prefer this colour, I prefer this colour, over and over again. And I was walking home from school at the end of that first day, and I looked at my blazer and I thought, do you know what? I actually do prefer this colour. And I became really obsessed at that very, very young age about what had happened in my mind, what had taken me from being genuinely horrified to truly preferring the colour of that blazer. So I just started reading because I wanted to really understand what had happened in the brain. I read every book I could on the mind, the brain, neuro-linguistic programming. I listened to audio tapes. I read successful people's autobiographies, and I just became really obsessed with how the brain worked and the mind worked, and how if you thought differently, you could have different outcomes. And I just decided at quite a sort of young age that if I thought differently, I can change my life, and because I didn't want to grow up poor. So I would say that's definitely my shake the table moment. So not quite in my career, but it was the moment that completely put my life on a different path.
We could call it a shake the school desk moment.
Yes, yeah. It was shaking the
but
desk.
A bit precocious, an early person.
Yeah.
What a story, though. You were almost marketing yourself from that young age. Where do you think that sort of came from? Because that's amazing to be able to think on your feet like that at such a young age. It shows great confidence.
I think in the beginning it was probably a defence mechanism. I prefer this colour. You know, because inside I actually, this was fake it till you make it. I did not prefer that colour. I would much rather have been like everybody else. But what I realise now is that I was sort of almost repositioning myself as someone who was brave enough to, assess this blazer, that blazer, I prefer this one, rather than going with like a sheep like anybody else. And I think as I've sort of found out as I went further in life and into my career, is that it's so important to be different and to work out what you're going to be famous for. And I think growing up, sometimes you think you don't want to be different and you just want to be the same. But actually, to get on in life and in business, you have to have your superpower. You have to have something that pulls you apart from other people.
Wow, that's amazing, Sherry. And also, I'm really fascinated by this kind of looking at neuroscience, and how has that sort of fed into your kind of stellar career that you've had in marketing ever since? Talk us through a bit about your career journey.
Because people say to me when I'm mentoring them, or if I, do other interviews and things, what do you think has made you successful? And it's not that I think I'm the best marketing person. Am I the best marketing person in the whole wide world? Of course, I'd probably like to think I was, but I'm sure there's other brilliant marketers. And I was trying to work out what is it that I think has helped me to be successful. And I think I've got that down to really 2 reasons. The first one is I always try to be a good person. And I know, you've written a lot about how important it is to be nice. And when you say it's nice to be nice, I think some people think it's a bit soft. It's a bit, does that really matter? But building emotional loyalty in business is absolutely vital, because it's amazing how people will just want to help you. And I always have a little thing in my head where I try and work out how I can make anybody I interact with feel a little bit better as a result of that interaction than they did beforehand. And it's amazing, amazing, amazing the difference that can make. But I think the second thing that has made me be successful is, yes, I am an eternal optimist, but I just make things happen. I have a little phrase I say in my head. I have lots of these phrases I say in my head. The answer is yes, now what was the question? The answer is yes, now what was the question? And that doesn't mean I'm a yes person, but that means whatever challenge an organisation is going to give me, I'm going to find a way. It doesn't matter. I know that I'm going to find a way. And I've written down a quote here from Barack Obama. I shared it on my LinkedIn, and he was talking about what he looks, this is when he was a president, what he looks for in the leadership teams around him, because he said so many people surrounding him can describe problems and issues and very eloquently write about everything that's wrong. He said, but actually he wants to find people that will say, I'll take care of that. So I do think that, no matter what the jobs are that I've done, I've had some amazing jobs. I've got an amazing job, but even if I was the marketing director of black bin liners, I would find a way to make it the most successful
Sales
black bin liners in the world. So I do think just having that positive attitude and being able to get things done has got to where I've got to today.
I mean, I can say this from personal experience, that you always put 100% into everything you do. I mean, possibly even more than 100% if that's possible. And I could give you a list of achievements you should be proud of in the 5.5 years we've worked together. But when you look back, across your life, do you think that actually is really what I'm proudest of?
What I'm most proud of is the fact that I've managed to write a book. And it came about because as a young child, with what happened to me at 11 years old, the more I read about, how you can sort of implant things into your subconscious mind and set goals and the power of positive language versus negative language. And when I was reading it, I almost felt like it was some sort of like witchcraft. But equally, as I was growing up, I thought, why has no one ever taught me this? This is amazing, the difference that the impact that this can have. And I started pulling together my little hints and tips, and I would share them with my teams. And I was speaking, when I was living in America, I spoke at a conference, a Women in Leadership conference in Jacksonville in Florida. And afterwards, in the green room, I was speaking to the person that was on after me, and she was the digital editor of CNN at the time, a lady called Kelly Wallace. And she said to me, oh my gosh, Sherry, that was so powerful and so relatable, what you've just spoken about. She said, you must write that into a book. And when you do, I'm going to interview you on CNN. I was like, interview on CNN? That'd be amazing. So I wrote the book. And I called it Win Your Lottery because when I was living in America, I discovered that Americans spend $70 billion a year playing the lottery. And the chance of winning the jackpot was 1 in 292 million. So it's about as close to zero as you're going to get. Yeah. And most tickets in the US were bought by the poorest in society. So I called it Win Your Lottery because it's about winning your lottery, win your life lottery. So I published a book. As it turned out, when I published it, Kelly then now runs a big PR agency and doesn't work for CNN anymore. But I'm still incredibly grateful to her for inspiring me to do it in the first place. And I've written the book because I'm a big reader. I've always loved reading, always in the library. But I've written the book for sort of more everyday people like me, not sort of big business people with sort of complicated words and complex theories. It's written, and I use examples if you're a hairdresser, if you're a builder, if you're unemployed, if you're a nurse, if you're a teacher, if you work in a shop, because I want to show people from my type of background that you can have a different outcome if you just think differently.
Yeah. God, that's amazing, Sharry. Great title for the book as well. And I know how hard it is to write a book. And you just said, so I just wrote
finished
the book. I just churned it out. How long did it take you to write?
3 months.
Wow.
And that was
You
3
are
months
so
when I was
driven.
living in Florida.
Yeah.
But one of the chapters in the book is about how to achieve your goals. And one of my tips on how to achieve your goals is to tell your children or to tell nieces or nephews. Because it's a bit like if you're traveling somewhere with kids, we're there yet. So when I said, I'm going to write a book, every single day they said to me, you've written a book yet? You've written a book yet? I'm like, oh,
and they're
geez.
holding you accountable.
Better write this book. And there's lots of other tips I've got on how to make sure that you achieve your goals.
Yeah, brilliant. Now, you are clearly a very positive and optimistic, kind of glass half full kind of person. How do you maintain that positivity?
Well, I remember a story from my granddad, who was a coal miner. So every day he left the house to go down into the pits of the earth, where he stayed for, 8 or 10 hours before coming back home again. But he left the house every single day whistling. And I remember saying to him one day as a child, Grandad, why are you always whistling when you leave to, go down to the mines? And he said to me, I have to go down into the pits. He said, so I can either go down whistling or I can go down miserable. Which one of the two choices do you think is going to put me in the better mood for the day? And I thought, no matter what job I'm ever doing, I'm not going down into the pits.
Yeah.
And if he can go down whistling, then I can get up at 5 a.m. and whistle. I can go on a business trip, be whistling. I can go to important meetings, and I can do all of that whistling. But another little tip I have is that I replace the words I have to with I get to. And it's amazing the difference it can make. Right now, my children have got mock exams and GCSEs. And obviously, I want to help them with their revision and, do sort of like past papers with them, etc. But rather than I have to help them with the revision, I change it to I get to. Because how many people would maybe love to have children and don't have children, or, whatever it is, or rather than I have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning for an early meeting, I get to get up at 5 because someone might be ill or someone might have lost their job. And it just really helps with the reframing.
I mean, I don't know whether you've ever had this, because I know you've helped me be very positive. You won't remember this, but a couple of years ago, I'd had a very bad meeting at work, and you said, well, why are you letting them let you feel that way? It's ridiculous. You didn't say ridiculous in a bad way. And it really changed how I felt that day. I thought, yeah, bloody right. Why am I letting people make me feel that way? And it really helped, because as you know, when you're feeling negative, you take everything in a negative frame, and actually you then don't perform your best. Whereas actually it really did help me have a bit of a moment of, yeah, right, you're right. And then, of course, I perked up and then probably didn't hear the criticism in the same way and actually performed better. So I'm sure you have had them, but I've never seen one. But what does a bad day look like for you, and how do you overcome it?
I love that you said that. It's funny, it just reminded me of a quote. I think it was Gandhi who said, I will not let anyone walk through my mind with their dirty feet. And what he meant is that it's a bit like sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt me. It's a sort of just another version of that. And the word, because I think we all have a responsibility on how we react to different situations in business. And I break that word into two: responsibility. We have the ability to sort of choose our responses to situations. And if I take it out of business, even if you're stuck in a traffic jam, we've all been there, Friday night, M25, pouring with rain, I'm stuck in a traffic jam. And you can either sort of shout and swear and bang the steering wheel, or you can say, do you know what, fantastic, another opportunity to listen to that brilliant Shake the Table podcast. And which one of the two options is going to put you in the better mood for the day? It's a bit like, whistling as you go down the mines. But the other thing, because being positive is about not being, oh, la, 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 everything's fantastic, because there are challenging things that happen in life. And what I try not to do is display any sort of like toxic positivity, as some people call it, which is just everything's great. And actually, when everything might not be great.
Yeah.
But I try and be very, very careful about my use of language. So say, for example, I haven't had a good sleep and I've had a couple of hours sleep and you're still in work the next day. Someone says to me, how are you? I can't sort of say, never better. But I try and make sure that my response still reflects the truth, not this toxic positivity, but with positive language. Do you know what? I could have more energy right now.
Yeah.
I could have more energy right now, because it's amazing the power of language. And language, whether spoken out loud or in our head, can really, really affect our day. I picture it as we all sleep at night, hopefully, and wake up in the next day with a full battery. But, everything that I've learned shows that every time you use negative language or complaining or moaning, it drains a little bit of your battery. And this is how most people live their life. You get a coffee at work, how are you? Oh, the weather and this and that. People just naturally inclined to just negativity. And most people
Especially
get home from
Brits.
work.
I mean, I have to say, it's such a rainy day, isn't it? I was laughing, thinking it's exactly right.
But most people get home at night, they flop on the sofa, and what do they say? I'm done, because they've got nothing left. But every time you use a negative word, because we're not all robots, it drains a bit of your energy.
Yeah.
But every time you use a positive word, it's topping up a bit of your battery. And I just try and make sure that I'm keeping my battery topped up. I used something that Barack Obama had said earlier, but something that Michelle Obama used to say to Barack a lot, because as you can imagine, as president of the US, and this is about, me always reading about successful people and how they think, she used to say to him, because sometimes there are people that want you to have a bad day, and how do you deal with them? And I always remember that what she used to say to him, which is, Barack, when the low go low, we go high.
Yeah,
when the low go low,
absolutely.
we go high. And I even say this to, younger people that I mentor. I say, the more, someone else is like that, then head held high, shoulders back. When the low go low, we go high.
Absolutely.
And I love that.
And I always think there is so much power as well in being kind to the unkind ones. That's where it can really make a difference. Now, it's clear that you absolutely radiate positivity, but how do you encourage a culture of inclusivity and positivity amongst a team? And as you say, you acknowledged it's not always easy when there are challenges and you've got, lots of demands from the business and there is pressure there. What motivates you to keep them in a positive state of mind?
Well, I think there's two things that I use to motivate teams, apart from, just being nice and being sort of treating people like individuals. Well, I say treat people how they want to be treated, some people say treat people how you want to be treated, and I say no, treat people how they want to be treated, because everybody is different. But there's two things that I use. One is sort of goal setting and clarity, and the other one is giving the team belief. The power of goals is unbelievable. There's actually a whole chapter in my book on it. There was a study done at a graduating class of Harvard University, and they said, a graduating year group, and they said, how many people have goals? 5% put up their hand. Keep your hand up if you've got your goals written down, and only 1% kept their hand up. 20 years later, they went back, and the 1% with written down goals were happier and wealthier than the 99% added together. It's a bit like if, put it into a real life example, say you were going to buy a new car and you thought, I'm going to buy a Golf. Have you ever had this? And then suddenly you see Golfs everywhere.
Yeah.
My husband's a builder and he was going to buy a certain type of van. We were driving somewhere. Kids were like, there's that van, there's that van, there's that van. And they were always there before, we just never spotted them. And it's the same with goals. If you're very, very clear on your goal, you will spot opportunities that you just wouldn't have spotted. And some people call it coincidences, but it's because you've set that goal in your mind. And for teams, that means about giving people absolute clarity.
Yeah.
People need to know where they're going. But also belief that we're going to be able to get there. Sir Roger Bannister was the first person to run a mile in under 4 minutes. It was back in 1954. So since the late 1800s, people had been trying to run a mile in under 4 minutes, and they hadn't managed to do it. So he broke the record, ran a mile in under 4 minutes. Brilliant. People have been trying for like 100 years to do it. His record stood for 46 days, and then someone ran it faster. And then a year later, 3 people ran a mile in under 4 minutes in the same race because they knew that it was possible. So setting goals, giving the team clarity, and then giving them absolute belief we can do it. It's incredible the difference that can make.
Now, this is something that obviously is part of well, this will be shared on social media, I hope, as we know. But, you're brilliant at sharing content every day, the pick of the day. I always look at it and think, what's she going to say today? And very occasionally, if I've tried something new, I tag you and I say, this is my pick of the day, but I'm never good enough to do it every day. So
and I always want to try the thing as well,
that's
even if it's a sandwich.
That's her job,
There
so
was
she's
one
doing
that
it
you put
brilliantly.
on- yeah, it was a new sandwich or something, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get that for my lunch.
I love
Brilliant.
that. I can't believe I've got like amazing sort of celebrities like
base.
Rosie following me. And I look at all the blue ticks following me, and it's because people say they genuinely just want to they're so interested in M&S.
Yeah.
And it just gives them a sort of, because no one tells me what to pick. I pick whatever I want, and it's always authentic. It has to be something that either me or my family absolutely love.
Yeah, well, that comes across, doesn't it? The authenticity.
Definitely. How important do you think it is that leaders have a presence on digital? I mean, I'm sure we'd have the same view, but you really use it to actually, I think, build your brand for colleagues. So I'm a colleague and I follow you. I know lots of other colleagues do. I guess, how do you use it and how important do you think it is for others to use it?
I think it has to be horses for courses. I think every leader has to be on social media, but you can be on anonymously or under a different name, because not everyone is comfortable sharing parts of their life. But you have to be on social media to look at your business and how people are reacting to your business. But also, I spend a lot of time looking at competitors, not just in the UK, but around the world, and always thinking, what can I learn? What can I learn? Not to criticise competitors, but always to look at what I can learn. Yeah. So I think it's absolutely vital to be on social media. And if you feel like you want to then use that to be a bit of an ambassador for your business, then brilliant. I work in marketing for M&S, and I say there are 3 roles in marketing. And I think my presence on social media helps me with the third one. But I say there are 3 things that the marketing team in an organisation is there to do. Number 1, to drive trade. So you have to be a very commercial marketer, because the business has got to hit its numbers and deliver for shareholders at the end of the day. So number 1, drive trade. Number 2, build the brand. So what are the amazing reasons that we're going to give to customers to turn left for M&S instead of turning right for someone else? But the third thing is to engage colleagues and to really engage that sort of retail army that you have. And just last week I was at our call centre in Chester, and so many of the colleagues who work in the call centre doing a brilliant job answering customers' queries every day came up to me and said, I follow you on social media, I feel like I know you. And it just gives them that sort of bit of connection. So I love doing it, and but my whole social media feed is just full of M&S and pics of the day.
It's clear that you do live and breathe the brand and absolutely love it, and that seems so authentic. Wearing the brand today, yeah, exactly.
But wherever we lived in the world, my husband and I, the number one thing that we missed more than friends, more than family, was M&S Food. So that truly is my dream job. If M&S Food didn't exist, I actually don't think I could live in the UK anymore. I'd have to go and live in another country that had better food. And that's how passionately I believe in what we're doing.
Was it always on your radar as somewhere you'd like to work? Yeah.
Always. It was, and I think for so many people, I mean, M&S Food isn't just the most loved retailer in Britain; it's the most loved brand in Britain. YouGov run this survey. Who are the most loved brands in Britain? It's people like Netflix or WhatsApp and things that we just couldn't do without. Number 1, M&S. It's amazing to work for a business where people, it's almost like a British institution, and that's amazing and terrifying in equal measure, because we're here to protect the brand and build the brand and make sure that we always do the right thing, because people expect us always to do the right thing. But I think one of the things that I've experienced is, in my job as the marketing director, I interview lots and lots of people. And I often try and figure out, wonder why we picked that person and not that person. Or I wonder why this person's promoted and not that person is promoted. And by the time I interview people, I'm sort of seeing a shortlist, and every single one of the people could do the job. Otherwise, I wouldn't be interviewing them. And my experience is there's actually very little difference in people. But the little difference is attitude, and the big difference is if it's positive or if it's negative. And what really attracts me to people is if they are sort of more radiators than drains. We all know these people in our own life. If someone said to you, oh, Rosie, we're going to this function, are you coming? Oh, who else is going? And you look at the list and you're like, no. I wouldn't have thought
Totally.
so. And just people that, you know, you see it, they just suck the life out of you.
Absolutely.
You know, in my experience, every single person lights up a room. It's just some people light it up on the way in and some people light it up on the way out. The leaders that we've got, whether it's Archie, whether it's Stuart, whether it's Alex, and so many more, they all light up a room on the way in.
You're so right.
You know, there's another brilliant quote, and I was trying to remember who said it. They said, some leaders cause happiness wherever they go, and some leaders cause happiness whenever they go.
Yeah.
And it's so powerful. And I've
It
just been
is.
very lucky to work with amazing leaders like that. But that's what inspires me, rather than someone, you know, who's made like tons of money or done this or that. It's just the human
Yeah.
beings.
And it's how you feel, I think, around somebody that's kind of emitting that positive energy.
Well, our CEO, Stuart, first introduced me to the quote. I think it's a Maya Angelou. I think any interview you have to have a Maya Angelou
you
quote, or
do.
it's really not sort of
Yeah.
being an interview.
Yeah.
And when she said, you know, it's people won't remember what you said, they won't remember what you did, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. And he introduced me to that quote in
it's
Australia,
brilliant.
and it's
I've got that
just-
in my Be Kind book.
Yeah,
it's a
I
brilliant
love it.
quote.
And,
I love it.
and it's a bit like my thing about always trying to leave people feeling better as an interaction.
yeah.
Because even if you're getting a coffee in the morning, or, you know, it's like when I walk into the Hitchin train station every morning, the people who work for the train station company, Thameslink, I presume, or British Rail, they know me because every morning, hi, how are you? And I could easily just walk past them, but why would I?
I agree with that.
And every sort of, and it's amazing, because I do believe you get what you give. And sometimes there are sort of delays, and whenever there are, they would like call me over. The train, they don't even know my name. The train that you're going to get, it's not happening. But look, if you do this and then that and then this connection, and it's just because I just believe in karma. You get what you give.
It's a great song as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that was so great.
One of the other great things about our leaders is they don't care about the colour of your blazer. You can just turn up and be you and be whatever.
Well,
be
I'll never
however you
forget,
are.
Sharry, when we first met. When you don't know me, my name's double-barreled, partly because I thought it'd be funny because I'm so not posh, and I didn't want to take my husband's name fully. And all Sharry knew was she was meeting this woman called Victoria McKenzie-Gould, and she's thinking, oh my God, who's this woman going to be? I remember that.
And then when I met you, I thought, there must be a mistake.
Someone else. Yeah. And then when Sharry's introduced me before, going, you'll think she's posh, but you know what? She dresses like a student. And I love that because it actually puts people at their ease so much.
Yeah.
And you're right, we can do what we could say, effectively, you know, as long as it's nice, but also wear what we want. And it's such a nice feeling, isn't it? Because people can be themselves.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
you absolutely can.
Well, that was a brilliant
Oh gosh,
conversation.
that was so full of positivity. Honestly, Sharry, you're really absolutely amazing. I love your outlook.
I love that. Thank you very much.
On a wet, windy, pretty miserable morning, there's far worse things to do than spend 40 minutes with Sharry Cramond.
The power of positivity and a positive psychology is just incredible, isn't it?
And the way Sherry can bring that to life in a completely accessible way, whereas actually what lies behind it is obviously quite complex. And where you get that sense from even as a little girl, you know, I can imagine that feeling inside you thinking, why, you know, I'd be feeling almost teary because you see kids do just want to be able to do what everyone else can do. Like an amazing resilience and creativity, being able to think, no, I'm not going to let myself be the victim. I'm going to own this.
Absolutely, and from such a young age. And she articulates so well as well. I can see that she's a really inspirational leader and somebody that you would be so lucky to have as your own manager.
Well, I mean, all I can say is when we have a meeting, I always leave feeling a lot happier, even if it's a difficult meeting, because you just get a sense that, yeah, we can all do it.
I bet. And just a reminder that in life, we always have a choice. I love what she said about that.
Totally, I agree.
You know, you can look on the darker side, you know, or you can decide to turn anything really into a positive.
100%. It was brilliant.
Yeah, I'm going to skip out of the room now.